From IVM 212 Group 17. This is our topic about etymology and development of English lexemes. Our group member have me, 周雅静, Meng Yichen, 陈欣彤, Siva Tashini, and Nurse Sabrina. First, I will talk about the word hobby. Chronological, the word hobby first appeared in the 15th century. At that time, it did not mean a leisure activity. Instead, it referred to a small type of horse. This horse was valued because it could amble, meaning it moved smoothly and lightly. This made it suitable for long-distance travel on rough roads. At this stage, the denotational meaning was purely literal, a real horse. The connotational meaning was neutral as the word was linked to transport and everyday use, not entertainment. In the 16th century, the word developed into the compound hobby horse. Denotationally, it no longer referred to a real animal. Instead, it referred to a wooden or prop horse used in folk celebrations. For example, mimers and Morris dancers sometimes wore horse costume, use stick horses. Hobby horses also become common children's toys. At this stage, the connotational meaning became linked to play, performance, and festivals, and was seen as light-hearted rather than serious. Then in 17th to 18th century, because hobby horse were associated with children and performance, expressions such as to ride one's hobby horse developed a figurative meaning. Here, the denotational meaning referred to a person's favorite pursuit or fixation. However, the connotational meaning became negative, suggesting something childish or obsessive. A famous example is Lawrence's term novel, Tristram Shandy from 1759, where characters are described as being on their hobby horse, meaning they obsessive over certain topics and avoid others. Then, in the earlier 19th century, around 1816, the word was shortened from hobby horse to hobby. The denotational meaning stabilized as a favorite pastime or leisure activity. The connotational meaning also improved. By 19th century, increased leisure time meant hobbies were seen as a reasonable and constructive use of free time, rather than something to be mocked. In modern usage, hobby has a positive connotation linked to enjoyment, self-development, and purpose. The word hobby also spread to other languages in clear regional patterns. In Europe, across Indo-European languages such as Germanic, Romance, and Slavic, the word appears as hobby, with little change in spelling, though pronunciation is adapted locally. In Southeast Asia, in Austronesian language like Malay and Indonesian, the word was adapted in spelling to HOBI. This shows that the word spread through borrowing, with some adaptation to local language system. The word hobby has undergone approximately 600 to 700 years of semantic change. It developed from a real horse to a folk performance object, then changed to a figured sense of obsession, and finally to a modern leisure active with positive social value.
My name is Meng Yichen, and my metric number is 231017669, and today I will be presenting the word holiday, focusing on its etymology and development. It's a common English word with a long and complex history. Its meaning has shifted from religious observance to secular leisure. First, in modern English, holiday usually means a day of rest, such as a public holiday or a vacation. However, this everyday meaning is quite different from how the word was originally used. The word holiday comes from Old English holiday. It's a compound word made up of halig, meaning holy, and day, meaning day. Originally, holiday referred to a religious holiday. Over time, both the form and the meaning of the word changed. The Old English form holiday later became holiday in Middle English and eventually developed into the modern spelling holiday. At the same time, the meaning of the word became less strongly connected to religion. For the denotational meaning of a holiday no longer refers only to religious occasions. Today, it generally means any day when people do not need to work or go to school. This includes public holidays and personal vacations. About the connotational meaning also changed. In earlier usage, holiday carried strong associations with holiness, religious duty, and solemn observance. In modern English, however, it's much more closely associated with relaxation, leisure, travel, and personal enjoyment. This change is related to social and cultural developments. With industrialization, work schedules became more regular, and the difference between work time and free time became clear. Because of this, holidays gradually shifted from religious events to recognized periods of rest in modern society. Finally, although the English word holiday itself is not always borrowed, the concept has spread widely across language. For example, similar ideas are expressed as 假日 in Chinese, Kyojiji in Japanese, and Chuti in Malay. While the words are different, they share the same modern idea of time off. In conclusion, the word holiday shows how English vocabulary changes with society, moving from a religious meaning to a more secular and leisure related one. Thank you. Okay.
A very good morning to doctor and also my fellow friends. I'm Devdashini Seguran and my matrix number is 233025571 and the word that I'm going to present is about salary. Okay, next, I would like to talk about the origin of the word salary, and the word salary originates from Latin and it is from the Latin root that is called as salarium. It is also derived from salt, that means salt, a highly valuable commodity in the ancient world. The salarium is also derived from salt, that means salt. Salarium originally referred to money given to Roman soldiers to buy salt or an allowance connected to salt. Okay, and next is about the Middle English period, which starts from century 1100 to 1500 century. And for the form of the word salary, during the Middle English period, it entered English as salaire, and it is also borrowed from Old French, which means salaire, and from the Latin is salarium. For the denotational meaning, it means payments or wages, and it is especially for soldiers, officials, or even clergy. And for the connotational meaning, it means it refers to formal or official payments, and it is also refers to employment under authority like church or state, and it is more related to prestigious than manual wages. And next is about the early modern English period that starts from the century 1500 to 1700 century. And the evolution form of the word salary during early modern English was the spelling stabilized as salary, which is spelled as S-A-L-A-R-Y. And the pronunciation became more stabilized and also closer to modern usage. From the denotational meaning side, it refers to fixed payment for professional or even official work. And it also refers to paid regularly rather than daily. And for the connotational meaning for the word salary during the early modern English period was, it refers to educated professions and for administrative and government roles. And last but not least is about the late modern English period, which starts from the century 1700 to the present time. And for the evolution of the word salary during this late modern English period was, the modern form of salary became fully standardized. And from the denotational meaning of the word salary during this late modern English period was, it refers to fixed regular income just like the early modern English, and at the same time it also refers to paid monthly or even annually by an employer. And move on to the connotational meaning of the word salary during this period was, it refers to job security and also stability, and it also refers to white collar or even professional works, and at the same time it also refers to career status and also economy reliability. seen that actually the word salary have been largely influenced and also spread to other languages at the same time. The word salary spread widely through Latin influence majorly and especially via Roman administration and also later European languages. And these are some of the examples which the word salary have been largely spread to. Okay, for example, the first language, which is French language, in French it is called as salaire. In Spanish language it is called as salario. In Italian language it is also called as salario. In Portuguese language it is called as salario. In Romanian language it is called as salariu, which is different because it ends with u. And in German language it is called as salar, which is unique and it is also less common and also more referred to formal language. And last but not least is Dutch language. In Dutch, it is called as salaris. And that's all from me. Thank you so much.
My name is Teo Sing Tong and my matrix number is 233000997. So in this section, we will explore the etymology and development of the word villain to understand how its meaning has changed over time. So in order to understand the word villain, it is important for us to look at the origin and early meaning. The words come from the Old French term villain, which was later borrowed into English. This French word itself developed from the late Latin word villanus. In Latin, villanus referred to a person who worked on a villa. And at that time, a villa did not mean a luxurious house like it does today, but a country house or a farm. Because of this, the original meaning of villain was simply a farm worker or peasant. It described a person's place of work and social role, but not their moral character, and it did not carry any idea of being evil or bad. Things began to change during the Middle English period, from about 1100 to 1500, after the Normans came to England. So the word villain entered English from the Old French word villain, which originally came from Latin and referred to a farm worker who lived and worked on a rural land. So in Middle English, the word had many spellings because English spelling was not fixed yet. At first, villain simply meant a peasant or someone from the lower social class. However, as time passed by, negative attitudes towards peasants began to influence the meaning of the word. Upper class people often saw peasants as rude, uneducated, and uncivilized, and because of this, villains slowly started to carry negative ideas such as bad behavior, dishonesty, and poor moral character. By the early modern English period, between 1500 and 1700, the word villain has taken on a much darker meaning. The spelling became more stable, and the original idea of a farm worker has slowly forgotten. Instead, villain now referred to a person who was cruel or morally corrupt. This meaning became very clear in literature and play, especially in Shakespeare's works, where villains are often shown as dangerous characters who deceive others and stand in the way of the hero. At this point, the word was no longer about social class, but about a person's action and intention. In the late modern English period, from around 1700 until today, the word villain reached the meaning that we are all most familiar with. It is now described as an evil person or the main antagonist in a story, such as in comics, movies, and novels. Any connection that are related to farming or peasant's life has completely disappeared. The word now carries a very strong negative feeling and is used to describe someone who causes harm or has bad intentions. In modern popular culture, this idea is often made much more extreme to characters, like supervillains who represent extreme forms of evil. The word villain spread widely through the influence of Latin and later European languages. So from the word Latin word, villanus, similar forms developed across Romance languages, such as villain in French, villano in Spanish and Italian, and villao in Portuguese, all of which originally refer to a rural worker or peasant. Over time, these words follow a similar pattern of meaning change and came to describe someone with bad character or immoral behavior. Through English literature, theatre, and later global media such as films and television, the modern meaning of villain spread even further. As a result, the English word itself is now used or easily understood in other languages, including Malay and Dutch, especially in popular culture. So this shows how the word and its negative meaning travel across languages through historical contact and cultural influence.
Good evening, Dr. Debita Tan and my fellow friends. I am Sabrina and I will be presenting about my part, which is how important is generational slang, plus conclusion, which I will conclude all of our presentations presented by my members. So, how important is generational slang? Generational slang is important to a large extent because it helps people express themselves more naturally. Secondly, they strengthen the relationship among people of the same generation, which is Gen Z, my generation. And Gen Z is one of those who started all of these generational slangs, which helps a lot, and it shortens a lot of words. Last but not least, it reflects modern culture and identity. So here it shows how important generational slang is, and I hope you understood my point of view. And now I will provide you with the examples on the next slide. Hi, it's me again. So this is the fun part where I explain the examples of generational slang, my favorite part. So as you can see on the left column of the table, when Gen Z says no cap, we usually use it with the sign or no cap. It means no lie. It makes communication faster and more casual. Instead of you saying no lie, I'm not lying. That's more cliche and more to Gen X and the previous generations, which is a bit boring and cliche. So we say no cap. So for the second example, the second column of the table saying that's fire. Usually it's using text. We don't really pronounce it. We don't really say it out loud. So this shows strong excitement compared to just saying that's good or I like it. That's very cliche and very old. That's very old school. So instead, Gen Z, we say that's fire, babe, or that's fire. Last but not least, using words like bestie or slay or vibes, something like it's giving the vibe, such a vibe. It means creates a feeling of closeness and belonging to the person you're communicating with. It shortens everything instead of you're my best friend. So technically we don't use you're my best friend anymore. We say bestie or slay, vibes. Thus, slang makes communication more expressive and more meaningful. Now I will move on to the next slide, which is conclusion. So let's move on to the conclusion, the last part of the slide. Overall, I believe generational slang plays a very important role in communication. It helps people feel connected, it expresses emotions very clearly, and it represents their generation's identity, basically Generation Z. However, it should be used appropriately depending on the situation, especially in formal or academic context. You can't use generational slangs in writing. You can't write slay or it's the vibe in writing. You have to be very formal. So this usually applies in conversations. So thank you for watching our presentations, and I hope Dr. Debita Tan, you understood all of our other presenters, our slides, and we apologize for any inconvenience or any weakness caused, and I hope you have a nice day, doctor. Thank you for spending your time to watch and listen. Have a nice day, doctor. Bye-bye.